sometimes you don't know until you try. And I've had a lot of patients that we didn't think that they would be able to do it, and they surprise us. I actually tend to be a little aggressive, maybe is the word, in saying, well, let's give it a try.
Let's give it a shot, yeah.
Whether it's with driving or return to work or, return to living on your own. I mean, we want to have some safety measures, but sometimes we just don't know until you try.
Almost dying taught me how to live. Being struck by a car left me in a 3.5-week coma with 15 broken bones and 16 surgeries to complete, including brain surgery. However, I woke up from that coma in an even greater place than I ever foresaw for myself. How? The universe will guide you out of the darkness and into the light if you allow it. Often, spirituality comes off as too highbrow. I'm not about that. Welcome to the podcast that talks and teaches about it through the lens of humor. Together, we'll harness positive energy and use it to work with the universe, all while giggling the entire time. Welcome to Gabriella Rebranded. Win most, lose some. Oh my God, this is so crazy. This is my first episode of season 2. And when you told me you were willing to do a podcast episode, I was like, you need to be the premiere episode of season 2, because this podcast was started obviously because of my brain injury. That's the main bulk of everything I've had going on. And nobody knows about brain injury better than you. This is Dr. Herman. He is my physiatrist and head of brain injury rehabilitation and recovery. Dr. Herman has been with me since the very first week of the coma through now and for the foreseeable future. Every medication I take, every therapy I take, he signs off on. They are all recommended by him. I have only recovered as well because of Dr. Herman. I still go for check-ins every few months, which is, I suppose, better than every day, which it was at one point. No one knows the struggle of brain injury recovery and rehabilitation better than someone who sees it every day in all cases. So my brain injury family, as I call you, this episode is for you and caregivers of. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Quite a privilege to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on. And we are all so lucky to have you. And your current role is that where I was posted up for a little bit, California Rehab, you are medical director of traumatic brain injury.
Yes. So I work at the California Rehab Institute in Century City, Los Angeles, and I'm the brain injury medical director.
Yes.
I also I work for Cedars.
Cedars, yes.
As I have a clinic through Cedars and do consults, and then I also actually do consults at some other places like St. John's, and I have an appointment at UCLA as well.
Oh, real? Well, I know California Rehab is a collaboration between Cedars and UCLA, right?
Yes. So just a brief history. It opened, I think Cedars had their own rehab. UCLA did. Los Angeles is a very big town. They probably didn't have enough rehab beds. And this organization, Select Medical, who runs rehab hospitals all throughout the country, came in and said, look, you guys are under-rehabbed. So they said, we're going to build a rehab hospital, a big freestanding one. And, you shut your beds down and we'll take the patients. And it became it started off as that type of a collaborative effort.
Okay, well, it's a collaborative effort we are very thankful for. And before we get into the bulk of the episode, I wanted to start with this question. Tell everyone what a physiatrist is and what a physiatrist does, because no one really knows. When I tell everyone that you're my physiatrist, they're like, you're what? And I didn't know for the longest time. I referred to you as my main overseer for years. And then it was only when I met another brain injury survivor in the past year that they were like, I think that's your physiatrist. And I was like, I don't know, this is what they do. And she was like, yeah, that's your physiatrist.
Yeah, very good question. Even my parents didn't know, and still, I think, struggle a little bit. But so just to give a brief history. So physiatry really started sort of after World War I. So when soldiers were surviving injuries, they hadn't typically survived, like brain injuries or spinal cord or burns and amputations. And so these doctors were not only managing their medical issues, but they realized that, these people, these soldiers aren't functioning as well as they would like to. What can we do to also improve that? So they started working with physical therapists and occupational and psychology to try to optimize function. So it's so we think about how you are functioning with this injury. So that's so a physiatrist, we look at the whole person. I like to say holistically, WHOL, and holistically, HOLISTICALLY. So it's all about how you're functioning within this medical issue.
Okay.
Okay. And so it's called physical medicine rehab. Or the other term is physiatry, as you noted.
Yes.
And physiatry, it's like healing of the body, unlike like psychiatry, healing of the mind. So that's sort of how it developed. And in fact, one of the first patients was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, is my understanding. Because it also coincided with the polio epidemic.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. We think of it's how are you functioning with this illness, and what can we do to improve it?
Well, I think that's very important because so the misconception about a brain injury, and that like I live with every day, is that, and all your patients do, is that like when it's over, like once you're out of the hospital, like it's over, it's done, and it's never done.
Yes, it's a very good point. In fact, it used to be thought of as just an event.
Yes, exactly.
And then it's over. But it's really it's considered a chronic illness now. Just like diabetes or hypertension, it's not just an event that happens. And sort of the way I look at it is broadly, it affects all systems. It's the brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And the brain controls everything. So I sort of break it down into, cognitive, behavioral, emotional, physical problems, language. Those are sort of broad categories. So we're really thinking about the whole function. And when I was, to be honest, when I was in medical school, I kind of liked everything. I liked neurology, I liked psychiatry, orthopedics, and this is somewhat of a combination of a little bit of everything. So that's what I like about it.
Okay, is that how you wound up getting into this? Because just like give a brief overview of your journey.
Interesting. So I actually, interestingly, when I was a kid, I used to caddy at this country club, and I didn't quite realize at the time, but one of the guys I caddied for was a physiatrist.
Okay. Do you still play golf?
I do.
Oh my God, yeah. I play. We should play one time.
Okay,
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. It's a great game probably for brain injury too.
It's great, and it's one of the only things that I feel like I can still do because the ball isn't moving. It's not coming at me.
Right. It's there. Exactly. Yeah. So this guy was a physiatrist, and after college, I started working for him doing research, and he was doing research looking at the function of older adults. So I knew about it. I did some research. We even published some papers. And then when I went to medical school, then I went in knowing about physiatry, which most people didn't. And then I liked I liked OBGYN, I liked everything. But ultimately, I came back to physiatry, and mainly when I really learned about brain injury, because I realized brain injury combined a lot of my interests in like psychiatry and a lot of my physical interests as, through like orthopedics and things like that. So I thought it was a good combination. And so I did have an early introduction, in other words, unlike a lot of people.
That's like, it's very interesting to be like, I thought it was a good combination of like a very big topic. Like the brain is probably, it's like neurosurgery, I know, is like like one of the hardest things to get into when you're applying for residency. And I imagine physiatry isn't different.
Yeah. So I learned early on that, for some reason, my brain and my hands don't always work that well together. So I wasn't the kind of person that liked to take things apart and put them together.
So surgery was not.
So I wasn't going to operate on people. But I thought that this field I could help take care of people after the surgeries. And then often we are doing, sort of pre-surgery stuff as well, or just, some people suffer brain injuries or many people do, and there's no surgery per
Yeah,
se.
most brain injuries aren't surgery.
Exactly. Yeah, probably at least, well over 80% of them aren't. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
So that's what I liked about it.
Okay.
I could actually, I like to talk to people. I like to listen, so it combines a lot of that.
Yeah, and it's a lot of listening because things change all the because I know you can have. My neuropsychologist was telling me about a patient that recovered like I did, that she had recovered I did, had a really good recovery, and then 10 years out, seizures developed. So the brain, it's just you never quite know what's going to happen. So you always have to be listening.
Yes, and exactly. And that's why we consider it chronic.
Yeah.
You can get better, you can keep improving your function, but you have to be aware of sort of potential complications. And then there's things that you can do that, that you got to be careful of. Like, for instance, you want to make sure you're sleeping well, and you want to avoid, excessive alcohol use or even caffeine, because these things, could maybe precipitate some complications. But so the reality is you just want to, take good care of yourself, so to speak.
Yes. I know I'm a person who I love my coffee, and alcohol was something that I didn't want to reduce in the beginning because I was only 23 and a half when I had my injury, and I was like, but that's my social life. But now it's I'm fine with a reduction in alcohol, but coffee is the one thing that it's hard for me to reduce on. But that's actually what prompted my neuropsychologist to be I had another patient like you, and she recovered really well. And then 10 years out, she was like, you're not out of because I came to every session with a coffee. And she was like, you're not out of the woods, girl.
It's a common thing. A lot of people, because fatigue can sometimes be a common symptom.
Oh my God. I say there has not been a day since before my injury that I've felt well rested. Every day, it's just a matter of how tired I am, but I have not felt well rested since before my injury. Yeah.
Very common. So, that's why maybe I'm getting ahead, and the other thing that I was really interested in too was exercise and
which I'm very into.
Exactly. Yeah. And exercise is one of the main treatments. And I think that, it's we really appreciate that even just 30 minutes of walking a day can really help with your overall recovery. Yeah. I think a lot of my patients, if they're listening, will probably giggle because I'm always asking about their exercise.
Do you find that most of your brain injury patients do or don't exercise?
I think that I hammered in enough that they really give it a good effort.
They really give it a good effort.
Because I consider it a medication.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So it's I'm not even going to give you a medicine if you're not exercising.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't super into exercise before I got hurt. And then I wanted to get back to doing the bare minimum because I could barely do anything. And then someone told me that exercise was good for the brain. Probably you. Someone told me that exercise was good for the brain. And I just wanted to recover. I was still under the faint hope that this was going to all be over one day. So I was I just want to recover. So I'm going to overcommit. And now that has just stayed because now it's what I find that it mainly does for me is it cuts off the spirals a lot of times. It cuts off the spirals. I find that my parents have even noticed, especially because now I'm getting better each day, but my parents even noticed in the beginning when I would get upset about something, before I did a workout, I would be so upset and spiraling. And then after I did a workout, I'd be like, I got it. It's fine. Yeah.
Agreed, 100%. Yeah. Maybe even without a brain injury, but clearly exercise is just a great treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you care for people after the surgery, basically. But you started the very beginning. You started day one. You were there with me, not day one, but day 3 or something when I was because it took us a little bit to get paired because I wound up, or my family knew someone who was this is the doctor that you need to see. And then you came in to see
Yeah.
changed all my medicines and everything. But you work with patients right from the moment they're out of surgery for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
How much of your day would you say goes to patients freshly in the hospital and patients who are back and reassimilating to life?
Good question. Yeah, so I kind of think of it, I treat people sort of from coma to community.
Coma to community,
That's
I
kind of
like
how,
that.
yeah, and I didn't make that up. I think I may have read it somewhere. But so when I met you, so that part of my job is when I go in, I'm doing like a consult.
Yes.
So I was called in to do an evaluation. And at that point, I did a good behavioral exam and we realized, okay, she's not really in coma. She actually is minimally conscious. So, and we can go through those stages briefly, but and then we were like, well, what can we do to help improve this? So, at that point, you were getting more stable in terms of vital signs and blood pressure. So we really tried to get you off of sedating meds, and then we started a medicine that's probably one of the best or more recent advancements in brain injury. It's called amantadine.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I remembered that a little bit. I was like, anatrogene? Okay.
Exactly. So it's a dopamine, increases dopamine in the brain, and it's been shown to improve your arousal, alertness, and actually improve your recovery.
Yeah.
So that's probably the main thing we started now. And so essentially I spent time doing those consults. Most of my time is then spent though in rounding and seeing the patients in the rehab hospital.
Okay.
Where now, you've gotten out of sort of the ICU or the acute care hospital even, and now you're starting to work on your actual rehab. So I'll spend my morning there. So it's interesting. I have the ICU, I have then the acute rehab, and then I'll go to the clinic where now I'm seeing people that have moved on out of the rehab hospital, and now we're getting them back to trying to assimilate in the community.
Like me now.
Like you. Yeah, back to work, back to driving, which was a big thing for you.
Oh yeah, that was
huge.
Yeah.
So I sort of, I'm literally, each day I'm sort of seeing that whole journey. Not necessarily in the same patient, but like this patient's getting out of the ICU, this patient's now in acute rehab, and then this patient, wow, they had their first day of work.
That's so crazy, just for a doctor to be through every phase in physiatry, because you're probably one of the only medical positions that does that. Like most doctors, like they're a surgeon or they're not with patients for every step. Like you're either a neurologist or a neurosurgeon. You don't do both.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things I really liked about brain injury was that opportunity to be involved in that whole spectrum. And I know, and you may have done this, when some of our patients, they go back to the ICU. And the nurses and the doctors, they're so excited
to
see them because they're like, wow, you're doing,
I did that, and it was great. It was so crazy because we walked. We didn't see everyone, but we saw a couple people. We saw a few people, and there were people who, I looked so different. But as soon as they saw me, they were like, "Oh my God, dude!" I just remember one of them said, "Dude." I thought that was so funny, but I vaguely remembered a couple of their faces, like a couple of them when they started talking. I was like, I have a snippet of you. Like I remember you.
Yeah. It's amazing how they'll remember certain patients. In fact, some places have like a sort of a neuro recovery clinic where they might be able to see that. When I was in Boston, we worked with some of the doctors in the ICU with some joint program like that. But that's what I like about it, that whole journey. Because I actually always say the real work begins when you leave rehab.
Yeah, it kind of does. Like it really does. Like I recently also, by the way, just because you mentioned Boston, we need to humble brag a little bit. You did work at Harvard Medical School for a little bit and also study there.
Yes. So I did my fellowship there at Harvard. And then I took over and started a brain injury medicine fellowship.
Yes.
I did that for a good almost 13 years, I think.
And you also, you do something with the Boston Red Sox, right?
Yeah, so I had a clinic,
Okay.
and we'll probably, that was sponsored by the Red Sox.
Which I am a Yankee fan, but whatever.
I actually grew up a Yankee fan myself. So,
Okay.
It was a joint thing. The Boston Red Sox and Mass General Hospital, they called it the home base program.
The home base pro. Oh.
So we were treating soldiers, generally from Iraq and Afghanistan, that had traumatic brain injuries.
You mean headaches, as Donald Trump said?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just headaches.
Yeah.
But these are very complicated patients because not only did they have the brain injury, but they were also in these, life-threatening situations, and they often had PTSD.
Yeah.
Which we see in civilian traumatic brain injury too. But yeah, that was a very interesting clinic. I learned a lot. And one of the things I think that we might hit on is to this concept of you can't necessarily see the brain injury sometimes.
Yeah.
And so some of these soldiers that, quote, had mild,
headaches, yeah.
Or I don't like the term mild, but yeah, you can't see it, but they were suffering.
Exactly.
And sometimes they'd be like, but their compatriot might have lost an arm or a leg, and you can
see that. Yeah. There is I so often run into the experience where it's like I should be treated like someone in a wheelchair. And my injury deserves the same respect. And it's not. It's so, I think a lot of times when I mention things and I'm like, hey, well, what about this accommodation? People think I'm just using the brain injury card. And it's like, no, I'm not. It's like every day I live with overstimulation. Every day I live with all these just sporadic emotions that I've gotten better as I've healed. And also lamotrigine is a big savior.
Yeah.
But it's every day I'm dealing with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Every day, it's hard for me. Visual mapping is very, very hard for me. I'm forgetful. There are just things that I'm constantly dealing with. And people are but people can't see it. So they're just oh, well, she works out a lot and she's pretty, so she must be fine.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but so just things that I've and I learned to appreciate this over time because through they don't really teach you this in medical school, but just walking into a grocery store after a brain injury
it's hard.
Can be everything coming in at you. So it's just you really have to listen and just be sort of open and compassion to what they're feeling. Because everybody's a little bit different, but there are certain things that we know, as you said, overstimulation.
Yeah. I actually just went to a concert with my friend. Wore earplugs. But I actually just went to a concert with my friend and we were going to go together. And I live here. She lives here. The venue was over here. So she was like, oh, do you want to drive? And I was like, actually, I will be so overstimulated after the concert, even with my earplugs. I do not want to drive when we get out. So I would prefer if I Ubered to yours and then you drove.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and
perfect sense.
Yeah, it's just a whole crazy thing. But you see people every day at every place and every point in the recovery, and I was just wondering this podcast as a whole, it's also about spirituality. That's very important. Mm-hmm. Do you think, one, what are the most inspiring things you've seen? Because there's a lot of bad things about brain injury, but what are some of the most inspiring things you've seen? And then also, has your work in the brain injury field, and you can't answer wrong because it's your true opinion, has your work in this field made you strengthened your belief that there's something up there, or has it made you no, there's nothing?
Yeah, good question. Putting me in the spot, but I'd say, one of the things that's really inspiring is the how the families and the loved ones come together.
Yeah,
because a brain injury doesn't just affect the injured person.
No, it affects their caregivers.
The whole family. So that response that people will just put, ideally, people's lives stop or change, sometimes forever. So the response of family members to me is very inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, my family was amazing. And just my mom is like now like one of my best friends, and I call my mom every day. And at first it was, I had the deal with me moving back to LA was that I had to call her every day, but now I just do it. And like me and my mom are so close, and like everyone who knows me knows that. And every so often I like will drop on people. I'm like, we weren't close before my accident. She was lucky if she got a call from me once a week. Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then so the second part of your question was
has it strengthened your
Oh, yeah.
belief or kind of squashed your belief?
No, I mean, I think, okay, so the thing is like, like two people can seemingly have the same injury.
Yeah.
Like even on a CAT scan. And, some people recover more fully than others. And, I don't always know why that is. That's sort of the heterogeneity of how each brain injury is different. But I do think that it definitely has strengthened in, sort of my belief in spirituality and maybe in some higher power. But it's just very unpredictable sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think that you need, I just think that relying on, the support of, family and whatever, higher spiritual thing you have it has to be important.
Yeah. I say I don't know how I would have gotten to this place. I don't think I ever would have gotten to this place without my family. And I also think where I am kind of like backs that up, where like people did not think I'd be here by now. Like it's I know it's very surprising to certain members, like my dad, who is a doctor, that I'm able to live by myself. That was like not something we were sure was ever going to happen.
Yeah, totally. I remember that. And that's one of the hard things is sometimes, that people will come to me and it's like, I don't really know.
I don't know. Yeah.
But maybe we got to give it a try. Sometimes you don't know until you try. And I've had a lot of patients that we didn't think that they would be able to do it, and they surprise us. So I actually tend to be a little aggressive, maybe is the word, in saying, well, let's give it a try.
Let's give it a shot, yeah.
Whether it's with driving or return to work or, return to living on your own. I mean, sometimes you just don't know.
Yeah.
We want to have some safety measures, but sometimes we just don't know until you try.
I know driving was something that like everybody made me feel like it was going to be so scary. So I was so scared. And then when I did it, I was like, oh, wait, I know how to do this. Yeah. Except for backing up. I had a couple issues I would get into like minor accidents while backing up because my depth perception, but never while driving.
Yeah.
It was always while backing up. Yeah.
Yeah. Thankfully, some cars are so, with the cameras.
They're so good now.
And
They're so good now.
My car will start beeping if I get even close. So I do think technology has helped in that regard. I mean, and then fortunately, in some ways, if you can't get back to driving, we have alternatives, with Uber or now Waymo, and who knows, like maybe one day people can actually own a driverless car. But I think that I definitely sort of have this philosophy is we don't know until we try.
Yeah.
And so I'll push that within reason. In your case in particular, I know when you decided to come back to LA, it was...
Oh, yeah. It was a very...
It was big, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a big... well, we wouldn't have known until you tried.
We wouldn't have known until... My parents were passionately against it.
Yeah.
And I say it definitely didn't work out. Like, I mean, I'm here, so it did work out. But I moved back way too early. But I always say that, but I wouldn't redo it in a different way because the only reason why I'm here now is because I did move back way too early. Like, we're all of some of our experiences. And I really like where I am now. And I only got here because I moved back way too early.
Yeah, maybe it was a little early. But...
It was a little early.
Yeah.
But I was telling you this earlier. My dad has always said that, he can give me all the advice, but at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I wanted to get back here. I wanted to get back here. I mean, it's hard. I'm sure you don't see it because it's not as common that young people have brain injuries. But it's really hard when you're, in your 20s, teens for some people. And it's like, well, you got to stop your life. It feels like you have to stop your life and like you just want to get back to it.
Yeah. Well, actually, in fact, the reality is that it's a little bit sort of trimodal, but, we know there's brain injuries in the very young and the older adults, but there's definite blip in young adults. And in fact, it used to be, we used to think that young adults was, they're actually more brain injuries, in adults. But it seems like we're seeing a lot more in older adults with falls. But we do see, the young, sort of reckless, nothing's ever going to happen to me.
You fully believe that nothing's ever going to happen to you when you're young.
Body surfing on the car. I mean, I've seen all of these, just sometimes just doing things that, we're not quite thinking through.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think back to like just stupid things that I did, and I'm like, I can't believe I did that. But your frontal lobe isn't fully formed, and you're 17 and you think you're invincible. So we all do, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, you're not. What are the biggest struggles you see for patients after a brain injury when they're trying to reassimilate to life?
Good question. Okay, a few things. I think one is, and you went through this too, as you're, you might think you can do more than you can.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay. And then your loved ones don't, and they're hovering over you, and you have 24-hour supervision, and you just want to try to do things on your own, but we're not sure that it's safe. And you think you can do it, but then you're told you're impulsive and you have poor insight and your awareness isn't good, because those are some of the harder things to treat. So I think that's something that's difficult, is when are you ready to not have 24-hour care?
Yeah.
When are you ready to take that next step?
Yeah.
I think that's difficult. And, we sort of talked about how a lot of these injuries, you can't see it.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you do it and it's like, oh, she can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So exactly. And then any little thing you do, any little mistake, you forget your keys, you leave the door open, you forget to turn off the stove, it's your brain injury.
It's your brain, yeah.
But maybe it might have happened before. But, I mean, I can't say, so we just, to me, I like to just, there's this concept, the good old days.
Yeah.
Well, before my brain injury, I could remember 7 phone numbers forwards and backwards. Well, maybe not. Okay. But so we kind of have to, really think about what was your functioning before and how is it now? So just sort of grappling with that. I think that's one of the harder things, because people will always go back to the brain injury, but we have to understand your pre-injury personality or your pre-injury functioning. Like maybe you were a little impulsive before. Yeah, you're going to be a little bit more now. Or maybe you had some issues with even balance before. Like some people say, I've always been clumsy, but you had a brain injury. So that's what, so it's a trying to understand that.
Yeah. Well, I know what's been told to me is that like after a brain injury, it's like every personality trait that you had is heightened.
Yeah.
And like, I was someone who was impulsive before. I was someone who like could be a little too reactive before. And it's like, it's like all the sort of not great parts of my personality were heightened after my injury.
Yeah. And that's a very common thing we see. Generally, as you just said, maybe the worst traits are heightened.
Yeah.
You don't typically see somebody be nicer after a brain injury. There are exceptions. I've had patients, and I think I go back to this movie it's an older movie called Regarding Henry.
Okay.
It's Harrison Ford, and he has a brain injury, a gunshot wound, actually. And he kind of became a better person after. I feel like that movie somehow influenced me, but that's sort of the exception.
Yeah.
But that's if anybody hasn't seen it, I would recommend this movie, Regarding Henry. It's an older Harrison Ford movie, and it takes you a little bit through somebody's journey with a brain injury. But yeah, that is a very difficult thing to cope with. patients will be screaming and swearing, and the family's like, they never did this before.
Done that. Yeah. Well, actually, I did sometimes do it before, but it like went to the power of 12 after my brain injury.
And it gets better. You kind of got to ride the storm a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. It does get better. I would say that, like, if I had to evaluate myself, I think my experience has actually made me a better person 95% of the time, because 95% of the time, like, I'm way more positive. Like, people always describe me as bubbly. That's what I always say. Mm-hmm. And like, so friendly. And so like, no one would have ever described me as bubbly before my accident. And like, I was definitely someone who kind of looked at the negative or harped on the negative. And now like, I'm a lot more positive. A little too positive, kind of working on that in neuropsych a little bit right now.
Okay.
But because it's definitely a little bit of a mask that I put on. But like 5% of the time, when I get angry, when I get upset, I get angry, I get upset. And like, especially to my parents, because unfortunately your parents your family, if you're close with your family, not my brother, but like I'm close with my brother, but he hasn't gotten this part of me. But my parents, like I've said terrible things to my mom and dad, which unfortunately is part. And luckily my dad as a doctor is like, this is how it goes. Like, and he's able to take it. But like,
it can be hard.
Yeah.
You'll appreciate this, but one of the markers for getting better, at least for you too, is your ability to handle the parking garage at my office.
Okay. Parking garage at California Rehab.
Yeah, very difficult. And I could see in the beginning, like sometimes you couldn't even get into the office.
No, I could. I would get because, okay, just for the listeners, the parking garage at California Rehab, it's like there's a valet. It's, it's largely people going to visit patients in rehab. So it's largely, or people going to doctor's appointments that aren't related to the brain. So it's largely normies, as I call them. And when you go in that parking garage, the valet is really directing. They are, I don't want to use the word aggressive, but they're strongly assertive in how they speak to you and how they direct you. And they're like kind of yelling at you. And like the overstimulation was going and I could not take it. I would get so upset. And now I can handle it.
Exactly. Good work. But that's sort of... I think that's the part that's hard about brain injury.
Yes.
As and you had noted, just the things that you can't really see.
Yes.
And the feelings that you have that are hard to describe, whether it's dizziness or lightheadedness, or you just feel, off balance. It's just, so you just got to really listen and just, try your best to help. So,
all right, my last question for you. Well, actually, I have another question to follow up.
Okay.
But my last question that for the bulk of the episode is, what is the one thing you wish the public, because the public largely doesn't know about brain injury unless you have someone in your life that has one.
Yeah.
So what is the one thing you wish that the public knew about brain injury?
Okay, good question. We've hit on some of this. So maybe one that I think that it's important to know that it's not just an event. Okay?
Yeah.
It really is it's a sort of a chronic illness. I think that's very important. And I think maybe they're getting a little better, maybe because with football and concussion, people realize, but those are repetitive concussions.
Yes.
It's a little different. So I think that, and just that, the reality is that no two brain injuries are the same. So, that's what makes it hard to predict. But at the same time, and this is why it's, we just really have to understand that sometimes, people just can have a little difficulty controlling impulses and thoughts, and you might speak a little louder, or you might make a rash decision, and it's just harder to sometimes control those thoughts. So I think if people just had a better understanding of that, then maybe they would, cut people a little slack.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the stuff we talked about, the invisibility of it, that it's chronic. It's not just an event.
Yeah, those would be the things I wish people knew too. That like, one, this is never going to be over, and two, I'm not playing the brain injury card.
Exactly.
This is an actual legitimate thing, and you should treat me like the disability is very real. But
I was just going to say, so I've had some close friends that had brain injuries, and it's sort of that's even quote mild, like without any findings on a CAT, and they've struggled, and it's really, and I knew these people before. These are people that loved their job, their life, and I've seen their struggle. So it really, hones in, and this is brain injury. It's a serious illness, but it can get better, and it does get better. The brain wants to heal and change itself.
But I say all the time, I'm like, your brain tells you everything you say, everything you think, everything you feel. It's all your brain. And to not listen to your brain is borderline impossible. So to get into the habit of telling yourself, this is my brain injury wanting to like react, I shouldn't do that. It's a learning process. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. But the last thing I wanted to ask you is, in every episode, I recommend a resource. And remember, I put this in the email. And when I have guests on, I let them recommend a resource. And you kind of already did it with Dear Henry. But if you had to recommend one thing, and it could be Dear Henry, but if you had to recommend one thing, albeit a book, a movie, a TV show, a stand-up, a podcast, whatever, for the public, just either to learn more about brain injury or whatever you think is important, what would that be?
It's a good question. Okay, so I think one, just maybe the Brain Injury Association of America website has a lot of good material on it. Mm-hmm. Okay, just something to Google. I actually really I think it's very helpful to read memoirs. There's a lot of memoirs written of people that families or people that have suffered brain injuries.
I'm writing one. Yeah.
Okay, like you are. Yeah. So I think that, and I read them, and I think it helps just to really understand what people are going through. So I think reading memoirs can be very, very helpful.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you are my first episode of this season's debut, and it just so special. And I really want to drive home that the ultimate goal of this podcast, because I got really, zeroed in on it after we did all of season 1 and we took a break, is like really what it's about is community and letting people like who have gone through all types of trauma, like there is like the ultimate goal of spirituality, like there's a better way to be, but also like there is a community. There is someone who has gone through the trauma you have gone through. You're not alone. Because I know I felt so isolated in my brain injury. And this is so important to me, this episode, because I've talked about lots of different kinds of trauma in my episode and overall what's happened to me. But this episode was truly for the brain injury community. And I really wanted to get one. This is like a huge honor. So thank you so much for giving the brain injury community this.
You're welcome. It's my privilege. So thank you.
Of course. And this has been Gabriella Rebranded, Season 2, When Most Lose Some. Okay. Oh, wait. Before, tell everyone where they can go to, I don't know, but I don't know if they're like, I don't want to say book an appointment with you because that's hard, but just anything about you.
I mean, I do see patients in my clinic, so you could reach out. I guess I could, my clinic is in Century City, and the number is, 310-423-6400. So yeah, I'd be happy to see anybody in consultation for anything related to the, brain or brain injury.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. And as usual, like, subscribe. Please, please, please leave a review if you're feeling really, really nice. Those help me a lot. And this has been Gabriella Rebranded, When Most Lose Some. We are back.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey guys, I know I just said bye to you, but now I'm back. And actually, I was saying goodbye to Dr. Herman, not goodbye to all my listeners, because I just wanted to pipe in here and say, thank you so much. This second season would not at all be possible without you and the support and just the reinforcement and just the love that has come from this glorious creation of mine, and letting me know that this is definitely on the right path and this is definitely what I should be doing. And it's It's so great and it's so affirming and it makes me so happy. And I'm falling more and more in love with Gabriella Rebranded and all the things that I'm learning about and all the things that I'm doing every single day. And it's just really incredible. So thank you so much. And in a lot of ways, I'm more excited for this season than last. Obviously, last season was my debut season. It was a dream come true. I wouldn't have traded the experience of last season for absolutely anything. But this season, we are really focused on expansion and growth. I finally found my voice. I've put the brand in Gabriella Rebranded. I mean, look at where I am. And I know what I want to put out there to the world. I know for fucking sure. And this season is about really doing it. So the support is even more encouraged this season, but it's going to be really incredible. And at its core, what this podcast is about is trauma can be so isolating. I would know that trauma can be the loneliest experience in the world, living through your trauma. And what I needed to know to pull me out of that feeling of loneliness and isolation, what I needed to know is that something was there for me, something was supporting me. And that is the universe. The universe is always there for us. It is always supporting us. None of us are ever alone. But to see that manifestation in person, what is an aided asset to really help you see that in real life is community. It is people, is just being able to connect. And so this podcast is to really aid in that. Each episode, I am hoping to engage with and explore another aspect of the myriad of aspects that are trauma. And I'm hoping to meet all kinds of guests, which will be so exciting, all kinds of experts that can shed light on things I know nothing about, which is most things in this world that I know nothing about. And really what I want to do with this podcast is bring a piece of that community to you and be another resource that lets you know you're not alone. I want to be the voice for everyone that I needed when I was going through the worst of it. And I want to bring on guests who are experts or know more way about or have lived for themselves all kinds of trauma that I haven't lived and I don't know anything about. And I'm hoping to just be that voice for as many trauma survivors and just humans as possible, because really life is going through trauma. Life is traumatizing. So we all need this. We all need the universe, and we all need that reminder of community, that reminder of love, and that reminder that none of us are fucking alone. And that is really what this podcast is about. And this second season is when we are really going for doing that. It's when we're focused on the growth and letting as many people fucking know, reaffirming for them, you're not alone. So thank you guys so much. Thank you to my community. Thank you to the communities that are not part of my community, that hopefully one day may be a part of my community, just all the communities in the world. And really, I just hope we all put love out there, and I just hope we continue spreading love. You are always supported. You are never alone. There is always love that surrounds us all. And thank you guys so much. Now this, for real time, I'm actually saying goodbye now, has been Gabriella Rebranded. Win most, lose some.